It's 6 o'clock, so we're going to convene this meeting of the Board of Education, and if you would, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, roll call.
Mrs. Winstanley. Here. Mr. Boucher. Here. Mrs. Mulvena.
Here.
Mrs. Clark-Pearson.
Here.
Mr. Bennett.
Here.
Mr. Shiflett. Here. President Wassick.
Here. All right, the first item on our agenda tonight is the approval of the agenda items. So if I could get a motion.
I move the Grand Ledge Public Schools Board of Education approve the March 28, 2016 agenda items as presented.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is the approval of consent agenda items. And for the audience, that would include meeting minutes from our February 8 regular meeting and closed session and a March 14 work session and closed session. So if I could have a motion.
I move the Grand Ledge Public Schools Board of Education approve the March 28, 2016 consent agenda items as presented. Second. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Approve the consent agenda. So now, this is if you haven't been to a board meeting before, the next item on our agenda is several reports. We have a number of committees from the board, and we will have public comment after that. But first, we have some committee reports, and the first is our Capital Connections report.
Capital Connections report, school aid budget. Both the House and Senate have appropriations subcommittees have put out their reports, looking at a possible $6,820 per pupil increase recommended by Snyder. House and Senate both rejected it. Snyder had proposed a 50-50 split. Senate came out with a 75-25. House proposal put it at 85-15, and that split is, based on the count, the fall count versus the spring count. Snyder was looking at a 50-50. Both the House and the Senate came out and said, no, we want something closer to the 90-10 that we currently have. Both committees also removed $9 million that was recommended by the governor for a statewide water testing refund program for schools. The House moved that money to DEQ. The House recommended removal of MSTEP as an evaluation tool, and the Senate didn't get anywhere near that. They kept it in, so we'll be interested to see where that goes. Let's see, Detroit Public Schools got a $48.7 million supplemental appropriation. And let's see what else. Oh, third grade reading bill passed the Senate. The third grade reading bill in its current incarnation got full support from the Michigan Association of School Boards. The two key sticking points that have been resolved, the retention now will have parental and teacher input and building principal input as opposed to just being flat. It has to happen. If the student is meeting expectations in all other areas but is still not meeting expectations in reading, they can still be moved up to the fourth grade and continue to receive remediation and help in reading. And the retention is not going to kick in until that year's kindergarten students become third graders. So that year's kindergarten students will have the entire time until they get to third grade to meet those requirements, and so the retention piece won't kick in until that kindergarten class reaches third grade. So those are two of the big sticking points that MASB had with it. Those being resolved, MASB decided to go ahead and get behind that bill from the Senate. So that's really all I have on Capital Connections.
Okay.
Please do.
This is what your legislators like to refer to as an in-district work
Put your
period.
mic closer to your face.
Should probably turn it on.
Oh, okay.
This is what your legislators like to refer to as an in-district work period. It's 2 weeks when they go back to the district to hear from you. So what I would like for you to tell them is, to do what you think is best for the district. You, the parents, you, the teachers, because in the age of term limits, they don't get the experience and the long-term view of public education that legislators 20, 30 years ago would have had. You know, most of these people are in for 2, 4, or 6 years only, and that doesn't, it takes more time than that to even wrap your head around how the budget actually functions. So explain to them what it is that we do here and what it actually costs to do what we do. Because with term limits and redistricting, we're not going to see a radical change in the makeup of our legislature for quite some time. So advocate for the schools, because you are the only people they will listen to, hopefully. But during the 2 weeks that they're out there, snatch them up. Talk to them. I mean, be polite, though. Yeah. Thank you.
Mrs. Pearson, if you could give the Eaton Risa report, but I just want to remind the board members, we have a lot of people in the audience. It's hard to hear, and so make sure your mic is on when you're talking and use your outdoor voices. And if any of you are having trouble hearing, we are using a microphone system, but it still might be helpful to move to the front of the room.
Thank you. I'm the representative to the Eaton County, what used to be called the Intermediate School District for Grand Ledge. And all I can say is what a difference a year makes. Last year on March 18th, I became a member of the board, and within 3 weeks, through the really the steady support of this board and our superintendent, Brian Metcalf, we succeeded in having the superintendent of the Eaton Risa suspended, pending an investigation, and by around the beginning of July, she had resigned. In that period, the budget was just yo-yoing all over the place. They had had 5 budgets in 10 months. That's like having no budget whatsoever. It just changed, and it had nothing to do with any change in economic conditions. It was just constantly being changed because of huge errors. We spent, Brian Metcalf and I in particular spent about probably 10 hours a week going over these budgets and trying to figure out what was going on. And this entire board showed up for many of the board meetings to lend their support, as well as some of our cabinet, to the work that we were doing. We got a new superintendent on December 1st, and the benefits of that for this school district, for Grand Ledge, are already being shown. First of all, there were huge benefits to the Eaton Risa district, which began to settle down and began to be able to focus on their work rather than trying to constantly put out fires in their budget and yo-yoing grants and everything else. So since the beginning of December, we have looked at redoing our entire sort of digital world, from our web marketing to just how we repair computers. We have put together a committee made up of most of the special ed people and superintendents and CFOs from the constituent school districts. They have come up with a funding mechanism that changes how special ed is funded. It is a more consistent and more fair treatment of schools, particularly Grand Ledge, which represents about 40% of the district, but got far less of it than its fair share of support and services from from Eaton Risa. In the last month, we have changed our general ed by reducing it by 2 people at Eaton Risa and making that money available in special ed, which would be several $100,000. That is on top of the change in the way we're going to administer special ed, which will free up hundreds of thousands of dollars for Grand Ledge. In the last year, we were going to be, I just want to remind people that Grand Ledge had projected a deficit at the end of last year, and we still had a deficit, but it was far, far reduced, and in part that was because we put in, through the works of this board at Grand Ledge, we put in new people at Eaton Risa who went through every single transaction and discovered several $100,000 that should have been coming to Grand Ledge. A few months ago, they discovered additional money that was through Medicaid that was tens of thousands of dollars that should have come through to Eaton Risa, and Grand Ledge will get a fairly good share of that. So, you know, I just want to commend this group that we have a very good new superintendent who came from 28 years at Ingham ISD, where she was, Cindy Anderson was, for many of those years, director of special ed. She's doing a great job there, and Grand Ledge is going to benefit, and our children are going to benefit very directly from the hard work that this board did in the last year. And I can't thank enough the people on this board and our cabinet and Brian Metcalf for the support they gave me to work through that. There were many times where there were moves by some of the smaller districts to prevent us from finishing that investigation. There were attempts to remove me from the board. And we have, we're not done yet, by the way. There's still an investigation of the former superintendent going on as I speak. But I just want to mention that Grand Ledge is a very good steward of their resources, and it is really reflected in what's happened at Eaton Risa and our ability to dramatically change that system. And I can tell you that it will immediately help some 6, 7, and 8-year-olds who have been suffering and need much more direct intervention, and they're going to get it now because we have changed the way that system operates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Grand Ledge Education Foundation.
Foundation report. This past fall, the foundation board decided to revamp its process of doling out money. In the past, it had given out mini grants to teachers, and we've decided to revamp the program. Details on that to come. But as a result of the revamping of the program, we decided that it was not in our best interest to host a Breakfast of Champions this year, so there will be no Breakfast of Champions this year. Not to say that there aren't still champions within the district, there clearly are, but as we had no scholarships to give this year, as we undergo this revamping of the process, we decided that it didn't make sense to have a breakfast this year. We are still on slate for the Spalsbury 5K, which will be June 18th, which is the same weekend as Yankee Doodle Days. That's what I have for the foundation report.
Parks and Recreation.
Good evening. The Parks and Rec Committee met last Thursday, and a couple of things that will be of interest to those that live in our community. The demolition has started on the property that was purchased down by the new boat launch, and they're hoping to have that house down here within the next week. We had a presentation from the subcontractor that has been hired to update the Grand Ledge City Parks and Recreation Plan. There will be a fairly in-depth survey that will be released in the next, and I say in-depth, it's 15 questions, so please fill it out if you happen to get it, to residents and those in the surrounding community to kind of get a direction on what the Parks and Rec's strategic plan should be, and this would be in support of seeking additional funding from the DNR to make improvements to our parks.
All right.
Are you taking down the Scout building too?
That is coming down, the Scout building will be coming down as well.
Okay.
Well, is that, it's called the Scout Building, but it's not used by the
Senior
Senior
Center
Center
now.
now.
No.
There's
No, it's
storage at
empty.
the bottom.
The store-
Windowless and empty.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then finally, the Governance Committee report.
The Governance Committee met last week, and we discussed a few items, and always discussing the superintendent's evaluation and its process. We also looked at student achievement and how to collect relevant data and usable data to show us academic achievement. And then we looked, still talking about, this was part of the discussion even last year, making board seats for 4-year and 6-year terms. So that we still need to take some action on in the future. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report.
Just a couple of items. First, reminder that the musical Little Shop of Horrors is coming to Grand Ledge High School Theater on May 5th through the 8th. Student and senior tickets are $12, and adults are $15. You can get your tickets online at glmusicals.net. Second, I want to recognize Rachel Hogan, who was crowned the 2016 MHSAA All-Around Gymnastics State Champion at the state finals in Rockford a few weeks ago. In her final event, Rachel set a new state record on the vault, scoring a 9.875 to give her the all-around title by .05.
Wow.
Along with the
Wow.
Along with the all-around title, Rachel also claimed individual state championships on bars and vault. She and her teammates, Ireland Beebe on vault and Aaron Afton LaFrance on floor, took home 4th place individual finishes as well. Finally, this is a short week for most of our staff, and I wanted to wish everyone a safe and restful spring break. I hope you have safe travels wherever you're going and come back rested to begin the last dash to the finish line. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, I'm guessing, because this is a pretty big crowd tonight, that the part that you've been most waiting for is what's next on our agenda, and that's the public comment on non-agenda items. Now, oh great, there are some. And so what we'll do is we'll read a few guidelines that we have to make sure that everybody gets heard and who would like to speak, and just some guidelines that govern this part of a meeting.
When addressing the board, please come to the podium. Introduce yourself. You will be allowed up to 3 minutes. Out of respect for board members, students, and staff, you will be interrupted if you personally attack a board member or district employee on issues unrelated to their job performance, mention a student's name when discussing behavior or other incidents, engage in discussion with other members of the audience. I will remind you when you are approaching the 3-minute limit. The board will not respond to questions or comments during public comment. However, the superintendent will do his best to answer questions at the end of the meeting. If immediate answers are not available, arrangements will be made to provide you the information requested.
Hello, my name is Bree Dennis, and I live at 12966 Amore Lane here in Grand Ledge. I am here today as a frustrated parent. After hearing several months ago that teacher contracts still had not been resolved, I decided to start attending board meetings to see what exactly was causing this. I came at a time where I sat in the room listening to teacher after teacher tell you their concerns and how ultimately they were not feeling valued. My stomach began to churn. These teachers are more than just teachers. These men and women are the people who spend the majority of their day mentoring, molding, and training my children. They are with my children sometimes more than I am during the week. I have 4 children. 3 currently attend Willow Ridge Elementary, and my little caboose will be attending the Little Comets Preschool at Holbrook this coming fall. My husband and I moved into our home 6 years ago. We really hadn't given other communities a chance because I knew that Grand Ledge was a great town to raise a family and had high quality schools. My roots are here with both my father and my husband's parents, all Grand Ledge graduates. In fact, my grandfather, Ted McCaffrey, served on the Grand Ledge School Board back in the 70s. It pains me to see the direction our district has taken. I appreciate the fact that Dr. Metcalf and Mr. George were willing to meet with myself and a couple other parents to discuss our concerns. In fact, in that meeting, Mr. George said to me, "We want to resolve this, so you tell us what to do." So here I stand, letting my voice be heard as a parent, but hoping that my voice can help you hear the voices of our teachers. You need to give them their planning hours. They cannot teach our children effectively if they do not get a planning hour. And don't penalize them with a pay cut if they choose to have this. Show them that you value them as teachers and you want them to have the ability to teach at their very best. We also need to cap our class sizes to 27 children. If the class size exceeds this many students, then 1 full-time classroom aide must be in the classroom. I could stand up here for hours and list the many things each individual teacher has done for each one of my children. There is no doubt in my mind that my children are their priority, and I hope that we can resolve these issues and prove to our teachers that they are our priority. Thank you.
Jessica Fuentes, 812 North Kreitz Road. My child will learn without an iPad, a playground, or extracurricular venues. He will, however, greatly be impacted by his teachers. 3 years ago, your teachers agreed to sacrifice their plan periods to give you some relief, and your job was to get a bond to pass. You presented a bond that shot for the moon and the stars, and your teachers supported it and defended many of you in the process. They defended your integrity. They defended the superintendent's pay and the management of previous bond funds. In return, you presented an almost identical bond, doomed to fail, disregarded the sunset clause regarding teacher planning, The superintendent received another raise, and the teachers were insulted at a PTO meeting. And in my opinion, you have presented contract proposals that are misleading, to put it kindly. Let's talk about some of the things you failed to mention. GL teachers have been known to be the lowest paid teachers in the area for quite a few years. In fact, our interns will point out that Grand Ledge's contract is actually shown sometimes in their classes on what to look for as a warning. GL employees that pay more for health insurance than most area teachers and have a health insurance that is not as good. The average cost for a master's degree is $15,000, and the cost for 45 credits on the low end is roughly $11,000. The district doesn't pay for classes, so how many years of raises does it take for a teacher to recoup those costs? Forced working on a plan is at the center of the issue. What do you still not get about that? The pay scale is only valid for the life of a contract. You've changed the scale before, and you can do it again. I see no reason for the teachers to trust you. And in fact, your new proposed schedule would make it would take twice as long for a new teacher to get to the top of the scale, essentially selling out our new teachers. Perhaps the biggest insult to your teachers, however, is the insinuation that they work 7 hours and 15 minutes a day. Stop. Just stop. You've got to be kidding me. I work in the private sector 7 hours and 30 minutes a day. I truly work those hours. The fact that you say that teachers work 7 hours and 15 minutes is a complete insult to your teachers and to this community. The teachers deserve more, and the community deserves more.
Erica Ledesma, 732 Lincoln Court. I have a 4th grade son at Willow Ridge and a daughter entering Holbrook in the fall, and I'm speaking for their best interest tonight. My 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Salisbury, taught me patriotism. Mrs. Bailey, my 8th grade teacher, taught me debate skills. Mr. Verdunk, my senior economics teacher, taught me how to budget. Mrs. Grass, my son's 1st grade teacher, taught him self-worth. Mrs. Ellis, his 2nd grade teacher, taught him an enthusiasm for learning. Mrs. Anderson, his reading support staff, taught him perseverance. The lessons one gains from dedicated teachers last a lifetime. We moved here in the middle of 1st grade from another district. We bought a house here strictly based on the reputation of the Grand Ledge teaching staff. A month into moving, my son came home and said, "Mom, I am a good person." You see, at the last district we were in, Dennis did not experience an enthusiastic teacher, only a tired and stressed teacher that pointed out everything he did wrong. Mrs. Grass, in 1 month, turned my child's self-esteem around. 1 month, one engaged teacher, and my son's life was changed forever. Unfortunately, 3 years later, I will not give a recommendation for Grand Ledge to my friends looking for a permanent home before their children start school. This is not because of the teachers, but because I do not feel that you properly value the level of staff that you have working here. Because of that, I think we will see a decline in the quality of education our children receive because the good teachers will move on to districts that value them. A survey conducted by the U.S. Department of Education supports my belief with their findings that of teachers that changed school districts, 2/3 of them did so because of lack of planning time. Some of you may be making decisions with the belief that the failing school bond is a statement that the community does not support its teachers. In my opinion, the failure of the bond is the community not supporting the administration. Luckily for our community, we don't have to re-elect a board that is no longer honoring their vision statement. A statement that says you are guiding all students to perform at their highest abilities. I ask you, how are students to perform at their highest abilities when you are not giving your staff the tools necessary to perform at theirs? In February, Mr. George was quoted saying, "We are a school, and ultimately we are here for the students." I urge you to turn those words into actions. Be there for the students, my children, by giving them the best staff possible, a staff that feels valued. Your staff should not have to negotiate their value for a year. Thank you.
My name is Erin Reese. I live at 12270 Madonna Drive in Delta Township. I've been a parent in the district for 4 years and am beyond frustrated that our teachers do not have a contract. I've attended the past 2 board meetings and spent the past 2 months speaking with various teachers, board members, and members of the administration. All parties say they have our children's best interests in mind, but the actions speak differently. The children in this district deserve a resolution. I asked all parties to please stop focusing on the past and move forward from this point to come to a resolution. That being said, I want the board to know that I support the teachers of this district 100%. 7 years ago, my husband and I moved to this district because of the school's excellent reputation. Now, after 4 years with children in the schools, I can say that it's not the facilities or the test scores or the fine arts programs or sports teams that make Grand Ledge great. It is the teachers. Teachers who volunteer to spend part of their Christmas break applying for a grant for a new Grand Ledge club because she knows it will benefit her students. Teachers who find you in the hall so excited to tell you that your quiet, reserved son finally voluntarily raised his hand to share during sharing time. Kindergarten teachers who find incredibly creative ways to teach 5- and 6-year-olds so those kids aren't just sitting at a desk all day long. Teachers who provide their students with amazing experiences like Q&U weddings, Friday reading to parents, and wonder projects where students get to choose exactly what they want to research. Teachers who know my entire family by name and stop us to say hi in the hall, at the grocery store, and at sporting events. Teachers that my youngest child cannot wait to have. As a parent, I want teachers to have planning periods, and I want TAs in the classrooms. I want smaller class sizes, less standardized testing, and less regulations. I want our kids to be worth the same amount of money to the state as kids in Okemos and Oakland County. But most of all, I want an environment where teachers feel valued and appreciated for all the hard work they do for our students. If Grand Ledge starts to lose its amazing teachers, we are going to lose what's making us great. I ask you again to move beyond the challenges of contract negotiations and work together to find a resolution for our children. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Megan Ritchie, and I live at 411 Liberty Street in Grand Ledge. I'm a mom of 3 boys, 2 of whom are students at Beagle, and 1 who will start NAF in the fall. I'm on the board of the Grand Ledge Robotics Club, and I participate in the Beagle PTO. I'm also a 1998 graduate of Grand Ledge High School. Several months ago, a group of interested moms, myself included, became aware that our children's teachers were working without an agreed-upon contract. Because we love our community and care deeply about the quality of our children's education, we were very curious about what the issues and the sticking points were. We decided to educate ourselves, and so we began attending board meetings, talking and listening to our teacher friends and neighbors, reading research, and even meeting with the superintendent in an attempt to understand the positions of both sides involved. Through this process, I'm sorry to say that I've grown to feel that this school board does not have the best interests of our children at heart. Our children's teachers have been told by members of this board that the community does not support them. They have been made to feel like they are whining or complaining, when in reality they are nobly doing what others who are seated in this room will not. They are standing up for my children and all of the children in Grand Ledge who deserve the high-quality education that comes from a district that is able to retain highly qualified, experienced teachers who have manageable class sizes and time to plan. I have listened to their stories here at the board meetings and through my personal conversations. Our teachers know what it takes to provide our children with the best opportunities. They are doing it every single day without acknowledgement, without increase in financial compensation, and for many without even the time to do what they need to actually do their jobs. Every single day, our children's teachers influence, love, nurture, guide, and educate the most important and valuable people in this community, our children. Grand Ledge Public School teachers deserve to feel valued and respected by this community, and our children deserve a fair and appropriate contract for their teachers.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Phillips. I live at 1124 Eddy Drive in Delta Township. I have lived in Grand Ledge my whole life, graduated here in 2000. I have 2 kids, one who is in 2nd grade at Willow Ridge and one who will start kindergarten in the fall. My husband, who is also a Grand Ledge graduate, we made a decision never to move, to raise our children here, because we knew that we were brought up in this amazing community. Like all of these parents and teachers here, we want our kids to have the best education, and I honestly feel that this is the place for that. I have been fortunate enough over my kids' short time in school so far to be able to spend time weekly in my son's classrooms. from begindergarten and kindergarten with Mrs. Gray, first grade with Mrs. Snyder, and now with Mrs. Austin in second grade. I have consistently witnessed our amazing teachers putting Grand Ledge students first, and they just want to be put first by you guys. Teachers that go out of their way at Christmas to know that their student at home will probably not receive any Christmas gifts and go and buy them and have Santa come and visit and get a Christmas tree. Teachers that make sure their kids are fed and have clean clothes and that their teeth are brushed every morning. Teachers that encourage and praise our students' achievements and help them learn lessons in failure. Teachers that go home to their own families but still have their school kids on their mind. My son loves school. He loves going to Grand Ledge, but not because of the building, because of his awesome iPad, the books, the recess, his friends. He loves school because of his teachers. He won't remember what Grand Ledge schools taught him, but he's going to remember what Mrs. Gray taught him, what Mrs. Snyder taught him, what Mrs. Austin taught him, as I remember what all my teachers here at Grand Ledge taught me. I want our Grand Ledge teachers to be treated fairly, and I want them to know that they are amazing and appreciated. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christy Marinack, and I live at 7606 Madrid Drive, Delta Township. I'm a mom to 4 kids, 3 of whom are students in the district. The past 4 years, we've had the privilege to have amazing teachers at Holbrook, Neff, and Willow Ridge. Teachers that spend countless hours outside of school coming up with activities that keep their students engaged and encourage a love for learning with things like Chinese New Year, 80s Day, QU weddings. Teachers that know our entire family by name and will stop and chat with them in public. Teachers that my younger kids have been known to count down the days of summer vacation until they can have those same teachers. But now, as our teachers have been working almost a year without a contract, I'm worried about what their future in the district will look like. To hear members of the school board and administration say that students are their priority when our teachers don't have a contract is completely contradictory. Students cannot be the board's top priority if teachers are being put last. Students cannot be the top priority if we are putting 30 kids in a classroom with no classroom aides. Students cannot be the top priority if, according to a school board member, high school teachers don't need planning hours because not all teachers use them correctly. Students cannot be the priority of this board if teachers are being made to feel undervalued. The district recently sent staff members to a training called Capturing Kids' Hearts that focuses on the relationship between teachers and the student and making the student feel valued. What about making our teachers feel the same way? My kids love going to school every day because they feel loved and valued. I want our teachers to feel valued and love coming to work too. Please show our kids that they are your top priority by giving our teachers a contract that reflects that.
I'm Megan Weber. I live at 9735 Looking Glass Brook in Wacusta. And I'm going to keep mine kind of short and sweet. I've got 2 kids that are in the Grand Ledge schools with amazing teachers, and I really just want them to feel appreciated by you guys. It's very hurtful to me as a parent to know that the awesome teachers that my kids have don't feel fully valued. So I just ask for that. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Erin Fredericks. I live at 226 East Scott Street. I am going to be reading a letter from a parent who cannot make it, and then I have a couple comments of my own in the end. This is from Mary Warland, and it goes as such. Dear School Board, I am a parent of a kindergartner in the Grand Ledge School District and would like to show my support for the amazing teachers we have in our school system. I implore you to find a resolution that rewards these individuals who give so much back to our students in the community. With the increased demands on teacher and the static pay they receive, it's a wonder that we have anyone willing to step up to the challenge of being an educator at all. Yet here in Grand Ledge, we have a school district full of amazing individuals who, despite overwhelming challenges, long hours, extra expenses, and at times thankless jobs, have accepted the challenge and done an exceptional job, even without your support. Education is hemorrhaging seasoned teachers as they are choosing to retire to escape the bureaucracy that has crept into our classrooms. It also has a drought, of individuals who want to enter into the profession for the same reason. It is your duty to protect the integrity of our education system, and making enemies our educators is not a course you should traverse. While I understand you have a duty to the community fiscally, you also have a duty to provide our youth with the best education possible. And all that starts with people who stand at the front of our classrooms and are charged with molding the future of our community. Please weigh your options carefully. If we do not invest in our educators, the futures of our students and the opportunities they might afford will be substantially less abundant. Don't lay the groundwork for a decaying school system just to save a few pennies today. Sincerely, Mary Warland. I would just like to say so many of the things in support of what the other parents have already said. And this is coming from the heart. I don't have anything prepared. But truly, our teachers have done a phenomenal job with our children. I have an 8-year-old in Willow Ridge, and I have twin boys in kindergarten at Neff. Our situation is maybe a little different than some of the people on the floor. Thank you. My son Lucas was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, a very rare and nasty form of cancer. And I'm telling you what, one of the things that got him going to get through his treatment in the hospital was knowing that he might one day have Mrs. Browning for a teacher. And seeing everything that she has done to help create an excited environment and learning experience for my children makes me say to you, please, please consider helping our teachers. Thank you for your time.
I'm Dave Klingbeil, 920 Woodbury, Grand Ledge. I'm actually here to respond to something that Mr. Boucher asked for several school board, maybe it was in the fall, about what could be done if you have any ideas about to settle a contract, pass a bond issue. And I don't know if you remember that, Mr. Boucher, but I've been thinking about it a long time. And one of the things that I would offer up is, and I don't mean this as a personal affront or anything like that, it's just an observation, that over time the state does not properly fund schools. Contact your legislator. Our fund balance is bordering on dangerously low, and all those things are set. And the action is a raise for the superintendent. Everyone else, you have to give. That builds a distrust issue. And I think both settling a contract and passing a bond issue would be helped by matching the actions with the words. And I think that's really important. So, and again, just honest opinion, the teachers generally are here for 20, 30, 40. I don't know how long Mr. O'Keefe was here, you know, I mean, it was a long time. Superintendents are transient. They're here, they're gone. Why reward the person who's only going to be here 5 years, 10 years, when you're going to have people who are going to be in the community, they're going to bring their kids to the community. They're going to, and the dollars come with kids, we all know that. Why not reward those people first? Just my own personal opinion. And I say that as a third generation. I'm an 81 grad. My folks were 45 and 47. My grandma, 1918, she's on a picture on the wall out there somewhere. Her mother didn't graduate, but was a student in Grand Ledge School. My children, cousins, our last one this year. 98 years, Grand Ledge graduates. Do you think we care about the community? Hell yeah.
Good evening. My name is Pat Gilbert. I live at 8021 West Eaton Highway in Grand Ledge. When it comes to our children's education, we want a learning environment that provides the necessary time, resources, and support for teachers to foster the development of well-rounded and well-educated youth. I'm a taxpayer in the district whose children attended Grand Ledge, and we now have grandchildren enrolled. Our family volunteers in their classrooms, and those experiences have only raised our respect for teachers and the tremendous challenges they face each day in trying to serve the diverse student needs in crowded classrooms. I've seen the need for increased, not reduced, numbers of teacher assistants and planning time to meet these needs. I'm here to comment not on the details of the teacher contract, as I do not have all the information to assess that process. Citizens are only provided information by the administration on the school website. The teachers appear to be limited to whatever meager media coverage they can garner to express their position. This does not give the public a complete picture of the contract issues. I'm here to appeal for a more transparent contract status update, one where both administration and teaching staff share their lingering contract issues in a medium easily accessed by citizens in the district. Citizens are not getting the whole picture now, so we don't understand why this contract is not resolved. From firsthand experience, I can tell you I'm very concerned about the lack of respect for district staff as a possible barrier to a fair agreement. In conversations with Superintendent Metcalf, I surfaced how I'd observed the important role teacher assistants play in the elementary classroom. Our top district administrator referred to their role, and I quote, as boots and bathrooms. And he continued, they do not do instruction. I was shocked and said so for two reasons. One, the sheer disrespect this characterization shows for a hard-working group of school employees. And two, how this comment reveals how detached this administrator appears to be from the reality of the teacher assistant's value in the classroom. A quick look at the Michigan Department of Ed website defines the teacher assistant's role as I witness it in the classroom. And it does a lot of instruction support. We used to have TAs in all the district elementary schools. These positions were cut. You can see the impact of that decision. They should be reinstated in all elementary schools and the NEF positions retained. Students could not progress at the rate they do without their contributions. The teacher does plan the lessons they share. Speaking of planning, I can't imagine how middle and high school students. I just have a little bit more. May I have an extension? Thank you.
You can finish your
It helps to have
paragraph.
a cane sometimes, you guys. All right. Okay, so.
If you could finish your paragraph and.
Okay, it's,
allow
all
them
right,
to speak.
okay. All right. And that planning time should be on the clock. I'm not sure how that planning hour got negotiated away years back. But as citizens, we are not privy to that. But I can say that I know these teachers work on nights and weekends to plan for the unique needs of their students. It's in the best interest of students to have well-prepared teachers. You can't eliminate a teacher's planning time and expect the same level of excellence in teaching. It's not fair to teachers or the students they serve. Good results require good planning in all aspects of life. We keep adding to their responsibilities, yet don't give them the salary increases they deserve. If we give increases to administrators, we should do the same for our frontline employees. Many teachers
Thank you,
donate
Mrs.
thousands of
Hill.
dollars in the classroom materials. How often do we recognize their financial support of our students? Please hear these comments, not as a complaint, but a deep concern that you as district administration leaders, as you wrestle with funding and other policy issues, do all you can to keep your focus on the quality of education in our district. No data, no test results can give the whole picture.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert.
I encourage you, each of you, to spend time in classrooms at all district schools so you can stay in touch with students and their teachers. And I hope you can find ways to respectfully reach a fair contract agreement that best serves our students and retains our fine teaching staff. Thank you.
If I could just if I could just take a minute to say thank you for your comments, but let's please do try to respect the 3-minute rule. There's a lot of people here tonight and a lot of people who need to speak. So, anyway.
Thank you. My name is Erin Zaleski. I'm at 1706 Riley Ridge, Delta Township. Many of you know me from the volunteer work I do in the schools, but I have a background in public policy and education, but today I'm here as an advocate for my children and the children in the district. I do whatever I can in this district to help where I see fit, whether it's last week I secured a $10,000 grant to feed needy children in our district. And I have very high expectations for myself, and I have very high expectations for the staff in this district. And I'm sure the teachers can tell you who have had my children, I have very high expectations for them. My teachers that have been there for my children have not only met my high expectations, they have exceeded them. I have teachers that on this past snow day was emailing my child back and forth throughout the entire day about his poetry anthology. Okay? I get daily emails from my teachers about what is going on in the classroom, how my student is done, how to make them a more well-rounded individual, answering questions. These teachers go beyond what I could imagine, and they work so hard, and we expect more from them than we ever have, and we have given them less. And I have talked to a number of parents. Even today I met with a group of parents and grandparents, and all of them support the teachers of this district and are impressed by what they see. And I want to let you know that I've heard the administration says that parents don't support teachers. And I want to tell you, and I have heard it firsthand from disrespect towards staff from administration here. I want to tell you firsthand, unequivocally, that is incorrect. Parents support these teachers and what they do for our students. And I know from working on budgets in this state that it is very difficult decisions you have to make. But I can tell you, when we did decisions that were difficult, we always looked at what was most important, and to me it's the children. So I don't agree with giving big pay raises to administration and then turning around and saying, oh, but we're taking away planning time and we're going to take away teacher assistants and things that will directly impact these students. It is not acceptable to us parents. And again, we support these teachers and value them, and we expect you to. Thank you.
My name's Dawn Grubb. I live at 1100 St. John's Chase in Grand Ledge. My children are in 8th grade, 10th grade, and one just graduated. I've lived here for 16 years and am very concerned that the Grand Ledge I love will not be the town that my grandchildren will know. Why? Because just like nuclear families can do at times, I see the Grand Ledge school system taking advantage of its most valuable family members, our teachers. They are being taken for granted. And just like when real families live under those conditions, it's not long before the quality of life of everyone in the home, or in the school and community in this case, is negatively impacted. And just like in a family, it's ultimately the children who will suffer the most. If we are to provide our children with a first-rate education, we need excellent teachers willing to invest in our kids' future. We have had this up until now, but I fear we are dangerously close to a turning of the tide. Our teachers cannot continue to be pushed to the limit, being undervalued by the school system, and still provide the quality education we want for our children and need for the community at large. It saddens me that the common thread among my teacher friends is that they do not feel valued. Some feel expendable. They are in a position where they have been asked to give and give with very little compensation. At the same time, they see their leader accept raise after raise. In doing my research, Grand Ledge reported to the Mackinac Center for Public Policy in 2012 that our superintendent's salary in 2011 was $140,000, with a total compensation package of over $188,000. It was disturbing to discover that 3 years later, according to our current transparency report, his salary has increased by nearly 20%. Even more unsettling is to see that his total compensation package has increased by more than 41% to $266,730. How can a 41% increase in just 3 years be justified? How can our teachers expect to be taking one more for the team when their leader is not held to the same standard? Sadly, this bears a striking resemblance to corporate America, where employees are expected to do more with less, cuts are made at any cost, and those who make it happen are rewarded. As you know, in 2013, our teachers agreed to work during their planning time for a 2-year period. They gave up their contractual salary to put our kids first and sacrifice their rightful pay. It is upsetting to me that nearly 3 years later, still working under this supposed temporary situation, our teachers are now expected to take a significant pay cut in order to get back what they so sacrificially gave. It is no wonder they feel unappreciated and taken advantage of. Upon learning this, I looked into the teacher compensation plan and discovered that a teacher who teaches here for 13 years or less and works an entire year without a planning period makes a whopping $3,300 more gross pay in a year. Once taxes are out, this barely is $15 more a day. That's an injustice.
Very good. Hi, my name is Greg Grubb. I live at 1100 St. John's Chase here in Grand Ledge. I'm new to the community, and my wife has a few more words here. Once taxes are taken out, this is barely $15 more per day. What an injustice, especially when you consider that they would have earned over 4 times that amount. Have you truly considered what our teachers have taken on in exchange for this offensive pay? They have the added stress of teaching for 7 hours every day with only a 25-minute lunch break. They have up to 30 more students in which to interact and form relationships, 30 more assignments and tests to grade, 30 more families with whom to communicate. They do all their grading, emailing, report writing, school-related phone calls, planning and preparing for all of their classes after work, at home, and on weekends. In some cases, teachers have to prepare for and teach an additional subject matter. So rather than prepping for 2 classes, they now have 3 to prep for. As a parent, both my wife and I, we are extremely concerned for the education of our children. How can their teachers do anything but the minimum for them when they are in survival mode with no time? How can teachers continue to be a listening ear for our children, show patience in the classroom, be creative and energetic in their teaching, show excitement for the content they teach, come in on a Saturday to administer practice exams, continue to coach winning athletic teams, put on exceptional musicals, participate in musical festivals, honor outstanding students through the School of the Month Student of the Month program, and do all the other extras that have made a considerable difference for our children in our community. Our teachers are exhausted and exasperated, and they're asking you to hear that. In addition, how can we expect to retain and attract quality teachers when these types of decisions are made, causing our teachers to feel distrusting of their administration and board? This short-sightedness is troubling. We have already lost many excellent teachers who have sought employment elsewhere due to these difficult working conditions. I don't want to lose any more. We don't want to lose any more. Our kids deserve better, as do our teachers. In closing, we want to remind you that our teachers are educated and skilled individuals with whom we entrust our children to do for them that which we cannot do for ourselves. They are one of Grand Ledge's most valuable family members, having a significant impact in our children, our community, and our future. As a community member and concerned parents, I am asking that our funds be reprioritized and reallocated in a way that lets our teachers know they are valued, appreciated, and not taken for granted any longer. Without such action, the Grand Ledge school system, with all its successful programs and graduates, will be a thing of the past. Thank you.
My name is Deborah Martinez, and I have triplet sons that go to Willow Ridge. While I echo what all of the other parents said here tonight about the importance and the value of our teachers as far as them being at their best and teaching in our classrooms, for me, it's a little different than that from my perspective. For years, I have worked with at-risk children. I regularly went to a meeting called Child Death Review that spoke about children in our Tri-County area who had passed away. I worked with children who were victims of both physical and sexual abuse. And I will tell you that the most underrated person in those children's lives were the teachers who were in the classroom with them every day, who were an extra pair of eyes for every parent who had a child they were sending out the door that morning. What concerns me about the fact that there's not a contract here is our teachers deserve to be rested. They deserve to be not just physically present, but emotionally and mentally present in a room where they have a group of children that they can manage by numbers and time to invest so they're paying attention to what's going on. It's that rest, it's that investment with our teachers that gives them the time and the perceptiveness to see a child who is in trouble, to see a child who has something that's going on at home that's not right, to see a teenager who's being bullied because of social media and the impact that it's taking on them. It's not just spelling and reading and math. It's being invested in by this community to say, we want you at your best in the classroom. We want you paying attention to our kids and not worrying that you don't have a contract, that you don't have a planning period. I see the 3 teachers who teach my boys every day in this classroom today, and it kills me that they're not home with their families tonight, that they're here because they want to appear in front of you to know that this is important to them. They invest in my kids every day, and they are my extra pair of eyes as a working mom. They're looking for trouble, they're looking for problems, and they're lifting my boys up. I have been on a board. I've also been involved in collective bargaining negotiations. I've been there. It's not an easy job each of you have. I know that you're not on the board because you don't like teachers. But I will say this. You presumably took a position on this board because you wanted to make a change, because you wanted to do something good for this community. This is your chance. If you can concede something, if you can work the numbers, then I ask you to do it, because investing in our teachers, investing in their energy, invests in our kids. So it's not just the reading and writing, it's more. Thank you.
Good evening. Deb Augie, 9120 Angie Way, Grand Ledge. I'm a parent of 3 students, one of which has already graduated from Grand Ledge High School, one at Hayes and one at Grand Ledge High School. Former teacher here at Grand Ledge Public Schools and a principal, and now a CEO of a firm, Education Inc., that's a educational consulting firm and also a student advocacy group. What I'm here to do today is to talk about something. In our everyday lives, we look for quality in the things that we do, the people we interact with, and even the things that we buy. Let's take a look at a simple thing, a car, a house. We create a little list of everything that we want those things to have, the things that we want them to meet, those quality things. One of the concerns that I have is that when I hear people talk about specifically the high school and the middle school, is that I don't know that we realize that they're paid from 7:30 to 3 o'clock every day. They have 180 days for which they're paid, and they have up to 150 students. They have 26 minutes for lunch. During that time, they have to be able to do quite a few things. They have to meet the needs of students that have a variety of cognitive abilities, all the way from maybe 80% IQ up to 130. We have students that need accommodations and modifications, in addition to creating pyramids of interventions, and as we've talked, I heard someone say, capturing students' hearts. This is an example of what we expect of our quality teachers. It's their teacher evaluation. I'm going to do the best I can in the 3 minutes that I have to give you an idea, a reminder of what you expect these ladies and gentlemen to be able to do within that half hour that they have, that they're contractually obligated to, the 20 or so minutes they might be able to have lunch and use the restroom, and the little bit of time in between classes that they can't go have their own needs met, make copies, because they're shaking the hands and meeting each one of those students at the door so that they can see where that student is every day. That's what's important. Meeting those students and seeing who they are, where they're at that day, making sure that we can meet their needs. A couple different things that I want to bring to your attention. Not only do we have to make sure we're creating lesson plans, but within those lesson plans, we need to have a spectrum of different kinds of, is that my 30 minutes? Well, let's see, we'll have to get right down to the end. Kind of known for talking. But we need to make sure that we understand that they're actually expected to not only create lesson plans that meet the needs of those students, but they need to go back and reteach any of those students that weren't able to get the concepts that were presented in the first place. They're expected to do formative and summative assessments, and those assessments need to make sure that they're valid. Those assessments not only are what they're teaching at that point in time, but need to connect to the years prior to that. In addition, they need to make sure they're connecting with a variety of other content areas so that we have a chain, a link, so that the learning in that classroom is not taking place in isolation. I would suggest that we take a look at the teacher evaluation. We have criteria that we expect for highly effective teachers. I know as a parent and an educator, this is what I expect. I know it's what you expect. I'm not sure that taking away someone's planning period so they don't have time to meet with students, help them by tutoring, make the multitude of phone calls that they need to make, reply to emails.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Kevin Scarrett. I live at 13721 East Kathleen in Grand Ledge. I'm a parent of 3 stepsons, graduates of Grand Ledge. I'm not here to talk about them. I'm the husband of an Educator of the Year. How long have you been working here, Francie? 27 years? 29 years? Sorry.
Time flies.
I'm not here to talk about my wife as one of the teachers in the audience. I'm an officer of the Grand Ledge Masonic Lodge. I'm passionately involved with the philanthropy of the community. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm the head of the marketing for the Chamber of Commerce and am the current chairman of the board of the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Brian and I have been sitting side by side on the board for 3 or 4 years now, trying to increase the vibrancy of the community and trying to increase the business environment so that this is a great place to live and work, to run a business. 2 years ago, I was voted as the Business Person of the Year. That's what I'm here to talk about. I'm a small business owner, and when I hear multiple parents stand up and talk about how they've changed their mind in a matter of 5 years, that they no longer would recommend people to move to this community because the situation that with the school district has devolved so badly. I'm kind of on the inside with the wife as a teacher, so I hear a lot. But I also hear a lot from business owners as well, and the concern is grave. So I would suggest that there is a forest for the trees issue here, that if you're focused on the trees and the budgetary issues in front of you, these are challenging, difficult issues at hand, but the forest is that the long-term impact on the reputation of this community and the business environment of people not wanting to move here because the school district is so badly damaged, that has to be considered as well. So I hope I'm speaking on behalf of other business owners as well. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Todd Marsh, 11910 Arrowhead Drive here in Grand Ledge. Like many here tonight, Grand Ledge graduate, lifelong Grand Ledge resident, father of 4 children that are currently in Grand Ledge, 3 at Beagle and 1 at Holbrook, and spouse of a teacher at Grand Ledge High School, my wife Erin. And I wanted to start out and say something. I've been attending the last several board meetings. I want to thank Dr. Metcalf, took the time to sit down and meet with me and shared some insight and very good conversation, and board members who have responded to some of my questions as well. I appreciate that very much. A couple of meetings ago, there was a letter read at the end of the meeting stating that a board meeting was not the place to negotiate a teacher's contract. And I don't think that's what this is. And I have very, very firm concerns that that's the perception of the board. I think that when you run for an elected office and you have a meeting that's in an open forum, you want to hear the concerns that are out there in the community. And I hope that's what you're doing. I hope you're taking our concerns and listening to them. I understand school budgets are challenging. I understand that the work you have to do is extremely difficult. I was an educator and was an administrator in a public school, and I know what you face trying to balance the budget. It's difficult, and what we have in Michigan hasn't made it any easier. My wife and I attended the summit, if you will, downtown in the fall with the legislatures, and I appreciated their time, but they were quite honest. There's not a whole lot they can do, and we haven't seen a lot, so I don't expect that that's going to change overnight. But I hope you realize that when teachers come and tell you their stories, they're using this forum as a chance to do that, and that's what the board meeting is for. And when parents come and do the same, I think it's important to listen, and I hope you are doing that, because that really concerned me, and I wanted to get that out there. The second thing I want to talk about is tell a story, because my wife is a teacher, and she's been teaching at the high school for a number of years, and it's been a very challenging year. And she was really excited in August because she was taking over some new classes, anatomy and physiology. She was very excited and had spent some time over the summer planning. And by November, she was in tears almost every day. Not because she didn't like what she was doing, not because she didn't love the children she was working with, not because the work wasn't what she wanted to do, but because she was exhausted, because she didn't have a prep or a planning period for the first 2 trimesters of the year, and it is a challenge. And she was up at 4 in the morning working on curriculum, and she was working until 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and it was taxing. And I, as a former educator, struggle to believe that this is best practice for how we want our schools to function. And I understand the challenges you face, and I appreciate that, but I hope we can look at every option out there and really consider, is this what's best for the quality of education we want to have in Grand Ledge Public Schools? I have 4 children. I want them to have the absolute best education they can have moving forward. One last thing I wanted to say. We had a snow day a while back. We had that snowstorm in the spring, and Erin was wrapping up her trimester and was getting ready for the cat dissection lab. And I walked in the door from school, and my house reeked. And I want you to know it wasn't because the kids had done something bad or the dog had done something bad. It's because my wife had a cat laying on our kitchen table all day trying to figure out how to adjust her lesson plan to make up for the snow day that we had missed. And that's the quality of teachers we have in this district, not just my wife, but every one of them here. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's John Ellsworth. I live at 316 Harrison Street. I can't quite do what some of our other speakers have said. I'm a transplant. I'm from Eaton Rapids. Go Hounds. But my boys aren't. They've been living in Grant Ledge the whole time. I gotta say thank you so much for being here and speaking. I brought this award, and I'm not on speech. This has compelled me to change what I wanted to talk about. Last week, the seniors at Grand Ledge High School had their Comet Globes Award, and I couldn't go. I had 2 meetings after school, and then my wife had another meeting, so I had to take kid duty, and I missed this. But one of my colleagues stopped by the next morning and gave it to me and said, the seniors presented this to all the teachers, and it's the Comet Globe for most deserving of a raise. Made me remember in high school we didn't call it Comet Globes, I guess we weren't quite that creative, but we had a senior awards night where things were done too. I was nominated for a number of categories. 2 of them I wanted to mention to you. I was nominated for most optimistic, and I won that. I have that in my classroom. I show that to my students. I was nominated for most pessimistic as well. I've learned that I express that now as that I'm cursed to hope. And yesterday was Easter. Today it's spring. I am hopeful that you heard what was said. There is lots that can be done. There are lots of facts that can be said. But I hope that you change the direction that you have been going. I hope that you've truly listened and that you now start to build a positive legacy for our schools and community. I know the teachers are willing to do that. I hate the title crisis leader. I've told you that I think every time I've spoken. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. But we are in a crisis now. And you can end that crisis. There are the resources available. There needs to be the will to make it happen. And I'll remain hopeful because I am cursed to hope. But please end this crisis. Please help us move together forward and make a positive legacy for our schools. Thank you.
My name's Bill Fleener. I live at 13305 Audrey Lane. I wasn't going to speak because I wasn't sure that you haven't heard just about everything, but I did want to say one thing, and that's that I want to caution you that your actions affect more than this generation of students and this generation of teachers. My daughter is a junior at the high school, and a lot of the teachers in this room know her, and she has wanted, since she could say the word, to be a teacher. It's all she's ever wanted to be. And every time she tells a teacher that, they say, don't do it. Not because they don't love teaching, not because they don't love engaging students, not because the million things they did teaching for, they all love those things. It's because they don't feel valued. They don't feel valued by the community and this community's representatives, their elected representatives, and you can change that. And if you don't, you're going to have people like my daughter who will not go into teaching, which she clearly should, because these people have told her it's not worth it. You won't be valued and you shouldn't do it. And I hope you can change that. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Stacy Hickox. I do support public school teachers. I think they have probably the hardest job in the world, but I'm here actually to offer some support to parents and to students who may be facing suspension or expulsion. I work as a volunteer with a group called Student Advocacy Center. It's based out of Ypsilanti, but we've just started expanding those services into the greater Lansing area. And so we're just visiting different schools to make sure that people are aware of these services. We are all volunteers. We all have full-time other jobs, most of us do, but we are trained to help families, to support their students, and to keep those students in school whenever possible. And we're not talking about mandatory suspension and expulsions. We're talking about the use of suspension or expulsion as an alternative to good in-school policies and practices. And listening to all these support for teachers, part of the problem now is that teachers don't feel the support, and so they turn to suspension and expulsion as a way to help control their classroom. And so I just ask that you look at the information that I'm providing And one of the things that we are asking is that when you provide notices to students who are facing suspension or expulsion, that they be provided with the information about our service, because we can help to facilitate the whole process as far as making sure that people receive the due process that they are due, but that everyone's interests are protected, not only the families, but the teachers and the school. So I thank you for your time.
Dale Westrick, 9041 West Herveston Road, Grand Ledge. I actually came tonight because I had sent an email to the board members. Didn't hear a response, but I guess Brian did call me, but somehow I missed it. So I'm not going to go into that issue. But some of these things go back, way back to 2008 with a flooding problem we got in Wacusta. Now, the school spent $70,000 approximately, right in that area, to put in a retention pond. That didn't solve the problem, it just moved it 150 feet to the north. So they flooded another property. That situation is still the same today. I'm actually been in contact with the drain commissioner and the road commissioner, and hopefully we can do something about it in a positive way. So that's one of the issues. The other issue I talked to Brian about, or I haven't talked to him, he called me, but I didn't get the message. But when I look at the lights at the school, the whole parking lot's lit up, 10:30 at night, and 1 or 2 cars in the parking lot. I don't think that's really necessary. And they're on at night, 5 o'clock. I go out and take my dog for a walk. All the lights are on in the parking lot. I'm quite sure that's not necessary. That's every penny that's spent like that could have been spent in the classroom, and I think it should be. And we mow, I'm guessing, about 20 acres of grass at the Wacusta School. And they do that every week. Now, I know hay sells for some money. So if they could lease that out to a farmer, in fact is we got a farmer out there in Wacusta, I'm quite sure that he would be more than glad to do that. And it's not only the cost you get off in that, you don't have to mow it, and you get some money back you could put into the school system. Not only that, it would help a lot with the flooding problems we have over there, because alfalfa does a lot as far as taking up the water. Them are some of the issues in, some of you know me. My kids all graduated from Grand Ledge. They're all out and working and everything. But you know, when I graduated, you know what said underneath my picture? It says school. Oh yes, I drop in occasionally. And that was the truth. Because I didn't have the support, and I don't blame my parents for it. That's important. Thank you.
Not seeing anybody else moving toward the mic, I'm going to assume that this is the last comment for this round of public comment anyway. Normally, the board doesn't respond to comments during the meeting and, answers questions afterwards, but I do want to acknowledge that because so many of you came out, that I really want to thank you for doing that. I thank you for the passion that you brought tonight. I think I can speak for all of us in saying that nothing makes us happier than to hear from parents who are experiencing good instruction and good culture throughout the district. Believe me, that's not the feedback we always get, and to hear such universally positive things about our teachers and our staff and the culture here is very encouraging and heartening to all of us. And I would say that all of us on this board agree with you that all of the things you have brought up are priorities. Most of us at this table either teach in public education now or have family members who are public educators, including myself. And so these issues are very close to home for me and for many of us, and we share the concern over the lack of resources available for public education and the lack of respect. And I'm not going to disagree with you. There's a lack of respect in our society right now for public education and for teachers in particular. I won't argue with that. And, you know, to John's point, John Elliott, I don't know that we can change that ourselves. You know, I'm not sure that we are going to be able to single-handedly here turn the tide of public disinvestment in public education. I hope we can. I hope that if we take this message to a broader community, to across the state, that we can change that sentiment. And we've made a start tonight, and I appreciate that. I agree. I think our teachers are the most deserving of the raise. I wish that we could do that. I honestly do. And I agree with Mr. Fleener in saying that the actions that we take today will affect more than this generation. Absolutely. And that's the frustrating part about this, is that we heard a very clear message from our community at our last strategic planning round, and we're hearing it again this year. We hear it during the bond proposals. One clear message is you need to live within your means. And we know we need to do that because it's not enough to keep this district open for this year or next year or the next decade. We need to keep it open for a generation to come. Century, you know, I mean, that's my goal, to keep it open for a century to come. The other clear message we heard is that we want leadership that lasts in this district. We don't want a revolving door of leaders in this district. We want you to hire someone who will stay, and we want you to keep him here, him or her. And we're doing our best to do that. And I just want to mention that. I am not at the negotiations table either. None of us are. We have a negotiating team. The teachers have a negotiating team. So while I appreciate your comments and I appreciate the sentiment, and we will certainly take that to heart, the messages that you bring tonight are really need to be directed to the teachers negotiating team. We'll listen as well. And so I encourage you to work with both teams and to communicate that. I'm sorry, we're not going to engage in a dialogue right now.
That's a citizen, that's not a teacher talking. No trust.
But I'm not going to engage in a dialogue with you. Now, we listened respectfully to your points, and I'm not going to say much. As I was going to say, I am not at the table. There is a gentleman here who is at the table, and if you'd like to hear.
Was that Tim that just yelled at? Was that Tim Marcy? No.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is going to be new business, approval of a food service management contract.
I would request that we take a 1 minute or 2 minute recess till the room quiets down while people are leaving.
Okay.
Second.
Just at the call of the chair, just recess us for 2 minutes.
Okay, we're going to recess for 2 minutes until the room is quiet and we can conduct our next order of item of business.
Give them an opportunity to leave.
Give me an opportunity to leave.
As complained. I want to make sure that that word is changed to complimented him, not complained.
I heard compliment.
Yes, it was intended. I just happened to notice that.
I heard complaint.
And if that's just a friendly editorial, if we could just be adjusted, yeah, thanks.
Okay. All right, well, returning to the agenda, we have new business, the approval of a food service management contract renewal with Chartwells. And if I could get a motion, we'll start with that, and then there's probably some information that,
I'll move the Grand Ledge Public Schools Board of Education approve the food service management contract renewal with Chartwells as presented.
okay. Did you have any background on that?
I would recommend that, that you support this contract renewal. We have used Chartwells for many years, and that program is a self-supporting program. Chartwells has managed it very well, has not required any additional monetary commitment from the general fund. Darren runs a wonderful program out there, provides nutritious meals to all of our students, at a very low cost to parents. So supporting this renewal of this contract is a good thing.
Okay.
And Nancy, you were around back in the day with Tom Goodwin, where I believe, when I first came on the board, Chartwell's hit like $100,000 deficit every year.
They did. When the first couple of years that we had them, unfortunately, it did run into a negative. And once we brought Darren Gyrich on board, he's turned everything around and has
Prior to you, Darren.
has run just a fantastic program.
Yeah, it
He
has.
is very knowledgeable when it comes to the financial piece of it, as well as the nutritional and the food side of it too. So he has done a marvelous job, and I am wholeheartedly recommend this contract renewal.
Are there any questions from anybody on the board? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say the same. Okay, motion passes. Well, if there's any additional public comment on agenda items, now is the time that you're invited to make those comments. Not seeing any movement. I will say that we have future topics on our agenda. We have a board bond advisory meeting on Monday, April 11 here in Sodden. We have a work session over in our conference room next door the same night, April 11 at 6 p.m. And we'll be back here in this room on April 25th for a regular meeting. And now I could entertain a motion for a closed session.
I'll move the Grand Ledge Public Schools Board of Education move into closed session for the purpose of discussing negotiation strategies as per Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act, Public Act 267 of 1976.
Second.
Yes, let's do that. All right, before we move into closed session, before we do the vote, we do have an opportunity for staff and board to make comments. And I'll start with the staff.
I wanted to give a quick labor negotiation update if I could. Remember, I gave you last summer this crisis management booklet on tactics for negotiating. So I think tonight we saw different, I encourage you to read your step 1, your step 2, and your step 3 activities, and to be familiar, because we can, while there's an open contract, we can expect that we will still hear these activities. That said, at negotiations, I mean, we've been in mediation. We had a mediation session on March 10th and on March 21st. We provided a proposal to the association on March 10th that really looked at 3 issues. One was giving them pay increases, significant pay increases, in my opinion, based on your fiscal situation, but certainly the proposal's up on the website, but giving a pay increase within your board, within the board parameter, with the current pay structure. We gave a door 1, door 2, and door 3 because we wanted, to give the association the ability to tell us where they think the focus of the negotiation should be, what they see as sort of the biggest concern. Door number 2 was to move the teachers to a new scale. The new scale does add steps to their current system, but folks on the top of the scale will earn more than, for example, the teachers in Okemos right now, which is kind of the standard bearer, and over 3 years, it would shift literally $1.25 million into teacher compensation. So we see that as a potential option. The mediator was pleased with that option. We still haven't received feedback officially from the association regarding that option, but we're trying to think creatively here for the with the association to try to problem solve, because that's really what we're trying to do, is problem solve. Then the third issue that we have is the third proposal was to give them an option where the secondary teachers, where only some of them are teaching on their planning time right now, but it's mandatory. And so we gave them a proposal that would relax that mandatory planning time, but make it fiscally, or you know, the proposals would match compensation so that we could afford that proposal. Because if we go with that proposal, we're going to have to hire a lot of new staff members, and each staff member is a significant or a material, I will say, investment in the district beyond what we currently have. We did not receive a counterproposal from the association, so we met on the 10th and we gave them our proposal, and then on the 21st they kind of had some questions about finances. Not all. We gave them. They've hit us with a lot of requests for information regarding financial information. We've tried to be more responsive to them than what we're required to under law to get them the information. There was a mistake in one of the financial numbers that we gave them, which created it created a misunderstanding on their team. So a week before we met on the 24th, or actually the weekend before we met on the 21st, excuse me, you know, Brian met with their lead negotiator to clear that up, to make sure that everyone was on the same page. But the 21st, you know, we really, you know, they wanted to talk more about, you know, our financial numbers, and so we did not receive a proposal, which was disappointing, but it's understandable, because they wanted to certainly, I guess, make sure that they understood our numbers before making a counter proposal. So we're kind of in limbo waiting for them to counter propose on the proposal we gave them March 10th. Our next session is May 2nd. I think spring break got in the way, and the mediators' schedule got in the way, and the teams got in the way, but our next session is May 2nd. We're going to keep our problem-solving hat on. We're going to go in there. We want the teachers to be well compensated. We've been telling them from the very beginning, we don't want to be imprudent fiscally, because that will make them happy year 1 or year 2, but year 4, year 5, when we hit a hiccup and we're really on the edge in terms of our financial situation, and we have to make real significant cost-saving decisions, you know, that's not in anyone's best long-term interest. So we're trying to, you know, make sure that that we're very mindful. I know it's not, you know, a proposal that everyone's happy with. I understand that. We want to be able to pay them more money, but we're handcuffed because, you know, we're not getting more money per pupil from the state. It's just the reality of where we are. So hopefully, you know, in the next session, we will get a counter proposal. And then at that point, we can put our problem-solving hats on, and maybe we can work towards finding a solution. The association did file for fact-finding, which I think is a helpful process. Fact-finding is really, you know, both sides bring all the financials. You have your open issues. You know, the state appoints a third-party fact-finder over a two-day period to hear the positions from both sides. And then that quote, fact-finder or arbitrator issues a non-binding decision. It's just the arbitrator's decision on what they think would be a potential solution. You have to go through fact-finding if you want to impose a contract on a union, but we're not looking to impose anything. In fact, we're looking to give them money, right? But all that said, you know, fact-finding might be helpful because it forces both parties to really dig accurately into the numbers. And in my experience, I've done a number of fact findings, and in my experience, it's a good educational process to be engaged in the fact finding. So, you know, I'm going to talk to you about my recommendation for fact finding in closed session, all right? But that's the fact finding process. It's non-binding. You know, it'll take a few months to complete, and once fact finding is over, we'll get a third-party opinion as to what they think, that third party might think a possible solution, might be to the differences between the parties.
So now that they've called for fact-finding. that
I'm
means-
sorry?
Now that they have called for fact-finding, that means we're not going to have a contract settled by the end of this year.
No, the parties will continue to negotiate until the fact-finding hearing.
But you're saying
Is held.
fact-finding takes a long time.
The fact-finding usually, in my experience, depending on the availability of the fact finder, and, there's briefs afterwards, and you have to give 30 days for the fact finder to write an opinion. I mean, fact finder is a multiple month process. Anywhere, I'm gonna say, in my fact findings, they've occurred anywhere, from 3 to 8 months. I've had, usually a fact finding result. So we should expect, maybe, some sort of result. If if they really want to engage in that process, we should expect that we could, get a result, in that time frame. I want to update you on House Bill 5194, which will make calendar and schedule, so district schedules, a prohibited subject of bargaining. It may tie our hands regarding some of the scheduling proposals that are out there right now. We had heard that this bill had stalled, but we got some word late last week that the bill was starting to move again. That specific House bill, will say that calendar and scheduling is a prohibited subject if it's passed as is, and it will remove those issues from the bargaining table. So that might loosen things up in terms of, potentially, getting a solution. And then finally, the association did file for arbitration. I want to report that the arbitrator concluded that he doesn't have jurisdiction to determine whether or not he can move forward with the arbitration. And so if the association, wants to press the matter, the arbitrator suggested they would have to file a lawsuit in court. And that's, that was the arbitrator's call, though, in my opinion, the arbitrator did make a decision consistent with Michigan law. So, that's kind of where we are with negotiations and the issues surrounding negotiations right now.
Ray, I appreciate it.
Sure.
If the group had opted to stay, the next thing I was going to do was turn it over to you to give that report while more people were here.
No, that's...
So I'm glad that you did it.
Well, that's okay.
I'm glad we did it on camera.
No, I mean,
I hope that the few remaining will be able to share that.
They have a First Amendment right to do what they did.
That's true.
So, they
Not
do.
just First Amendment, we're glad they do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
we want to
yeah.
hear.
Oh.
Yeah, and they won't,
So happy to hear the comments. I was wishing that, because I know some of the questions
Yeah.
that were raised, you had the answers to, and so.
Yeah, and we really want to get to a point where we can engage in problem solving. I mean, I know personally, we were ready, the last time we met on the 21st to go as late as we needed to go. And you know what? When I don't know if their party is ready or not. I don't know. I can't speak for them. But it was clear the mediator wasn't ready, to stay to get the thing finished. So, so if that's the circumstance, it's hard to get something done. But it's our hope that the next time we meet, we can work through hopefully the numbers some more. We can get a proposal back from them, and then we can try to problem solve.
Okay.
I will jump in there before it goes to board and let you know that I have made offers number of times for both the president and vice president of the association to meet with or without the attorneys, with or without the mediator. So it's not something that has to wait till May 2nd, but I've made that offer from last June all the way through an attempt to get somebody to sit down across from me and actually talk and actually try to problem solve and come up with a solution. So far, I have not been contacted, and nobody said, I think tomorrow might work or next week would work. But the offer has been there on a regular basis.
Well, and certainly, we'll recommit. I mean, I have no problem stepping back and allowing the parties to personally resolve it at a local level, as long as the MEA's professional negotiator, who's also an attorney, steps back as well. Because, you know, if you're in a circumstance where you have, you know, one attorney negotiating with a side that's not represented, that's not something I would recommend you guys to do.
And that's why I said both attorneys not present.
Correct. Correct. Okay.
You know, I have to ask a question very quickly. People seem to be upset that Brian Metcalf, you know, he settled his contract. But everyone settled their contract, not just Brian, the principals, the secretaries, the food service, custodians, everybody has settled their contract because of this new regulation 2 years old that your pay can't be retroactive. Everyone seems to be quite, am I just making that assumption, or, because everyone seems to.
No, I mean, Public Act 54 does give us, and I'm not going to give you some, I'm not going to give legal advice out here in open session because I don't want to waive our attorney-client privilege. So I'll talk with you in closed session
Sorry.
about the impact of PA 54 on our negotiation.
All right.
Okay.
I just want to thank everybody for sticking through with us for the rest of the meeting here, and I'd like to thank everybody that came out and talked with us tonight. We heard it all. And I also have a small request that in the future, if someone would like to quote me, that they do it accurately and possibly, if possible, either be there when I said what I said or check with me if they have any questions about what I said. So that's all I've got there. Thank you.
Fair enough.
I guess I also would like to thank all those who are in the room and all those who came and spoke for the last roughly hour, maybe hour and a half. And I've said this before, but I just want to, I want to repeat it. My undergraduate degree was economics, and I'm a CPA, and I care deeply about numbers, and numbers represent people and allocation of resources to me. When I got on the board in 2002, which is about 14 years ago now, or at the end of that period, our school budget was about $44 million. It has gone up less than 0.1% a year. In that same period, when we were paying about 7% of salaries as retirement, we're now paying closer to what, 33%? And our income has gone up from, I think it's roughly 44 million, I'm sorry, our expenses from 44 million to 45 million. In this period of Michigan becoming a sort of a de-industrialized state, we have passed Proposal A, which handcuffs schools' ability to raise revenue. They've now passed Senate Bill 571, I think it was, that's going to handcuff our ability to make any kind of capital improvements and be able to inform the community about that. That result means that when we have very large, not just improvements to make the school all shiny, but to just keep things like boilers working and all the other things that it takes when you have more than 5,000 kids and more than 1 million square feet of buildings, all those things, they're going to be drained off. They're going to now be coming out of an operating fund if we're handcuffed on that side. Treasurer Robert Klein, who was one of the treasurers that I served under, made the comment, the treasurer for the state of Michigan, made the comment that Michigan has been steadily de-investing itself for the municipalities and local governments, including schools. The state budget has fared far better than the schools and the city budgets. Whenever they need to balance a budget, they do it by reducing payments to schools and to municipalities. So in the last 12 to 14 years that I've served on this board, we have closed schools. We have come up with every year ways to cut the budget so that we could live within our means. It gets pretty tough when you do it year after year after year. And, you know, I have had great regard for the people here who come up with ways to do that and still manage to give people some kind of an increase. But it has come at the expense of a wide variety of other kinds of disinvestment in the buildings, in our schools, and our kids. In the end, we are going to hit a wall, and we have been bouncing up against it. And I think there's an old phrase that, and I guess I'll close with that, even though I wasn't really thinking at the time, that sometimes you don't know the writing on the wall, you don't see the writing on the wall until your back's up against it. And I think that in Michigan, if you look nationally, Robert Klein, our former treasurer, would tell you that Michigan has more school systems and more cities that are on the brink of financial disaster than anywhere else in the country. We're kind of the epicenter of this. And the response of our government when the people voted not to have emergency managers was to make it ballot-proof and reinstate it, and now we have problems like we have in Flint. Those problems are going to seep all the way through our infrastructure because of the complete disregard at the state level for us.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know if I can add to that. But it has been, as the gentleman once said, his family's been going to school here, graduating for 100 years, basically. And I want to see this district around for 100 years. It's a delicate dance we have done for many years with financial resources. And we have to make a lot of hard decisions. And the community said no to 2 bond proposals. You know, one person up here said tonight it was the moon and the stars. Well, the problem is we have an old infrastructure. You know, the high school plumbing underneath is over 50 years old. It's breaking down. There are roofs. They're breaking down. There's boilers. And now it's just a whole infrastructure, including athletic pieces. The pool is having severe issues. The dehumidifier, $500,000 to replace it. You don't have it. You don't have a pool. So what do? Fill it with dirt? I mean, it's the most widely used community resource in this entire district. And, you know, I don't want to lose it, but if you don't have a dehumidifier, you've got real problems. So we're trying to balance all those things. The community keeps saying no to those proposals which would fix all those things. And I do value our teachers. I know money means value, but we're doing the best we can with the resources we have. Eaton County is probably the lowest funded district in most of Michigan. I mean, there's so many other counties that get much higher funding than we do. All our surrounding counties, you know, when I look in the Bulletin 1014 reports, I mean, I'm seeing some districts at 10, 12, 15,000 per student. We're just inching back up over 7,000. Just. Where we were 13, 14 years ago. So I'm trying, I know everybody here, everyone, the negotiation team, we all want to give our teachers something. But again, we can't give our teachers the moon and the stars either. You know, we can't pass a bond with the moon and the stars. We all know that. But, and part of negotiation is coming to meet in the middle. I mean, yes, we want this, yes, we want that, but you bring 1 or 2 things to that table and you negotiate them. It seems to have been a breakdown this year for whatever reason. And, you know, someone mentioned earlier, yeah, our teachers have been beat up for years, not by us, by the Capitol. They've come after the MEA. I mean, you look, it seems like on a daily basis, new legislation is introduced that it goes after public education, it goes after teachers, it goes after their unions, okay? It's on a regular basis, and to what end? So John made a mention earlier, grab these people while they have this 2-week time and tell them what's important to you. I think public education is important to all of us. So, and I want to keep it, and I want to keep this district alive and vital and healthy. But, you know, we've just got to come meet in the middle sometimes, all the time really, to make this a good school district. So I appreciate everyone who came and spoke tonight. There's so many snippets. I keep thinking in my mind, I wanted to say something. And so, you know, it's a lot of moving pieces. And our teachers are a big part of that. As Linda said earlier, I love to see and hear the impact our teachers are having on students, that they love to go to school. That's so refreshing to hear. Because, again, we always hear about the bullies or, you know, my teacher didn't do this, or it just, you always hear the terrible things, but we don't hear those good things. So that was great feedback to get tonight. So I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks. I just have a couple of quick thoughts. I wasn't going to say anything, but I will tell you that I'm extremely moved that we have members of the community involved today, and I hate looking over the lectern to look at you, but you know, we don't get a lot of community involvement at these meetings. You know, it's very rare to see more than 1 or 2 people here at a time, and it's usually because their child is receiving an award. It's very rare that we get people that come up here and tell us we're doing a good job. Can you believe that? But I'm going to echo what the sentiments of the board, and I challenge you to reach out to your board members and ask questions. I am the husband of a teacher. I am the son of a teacher. I am the brother-in-law of a teacher and the nephew of 2 teachers. My mom taught for 40 years in a district that had significantly bigger troubles than this one does and does now. And if you Google Van Buren Public Schools, if you'd like an answer to that, we value the work that they do every day. I will also say that, I've heard it said to us that the state's problems aren't our problems. Well, I happen to disagree with that. The state's problems are very much our problems. And I don't have any fear of the state coming in here to take this district over, because I don't think any of us would allow that. But I can tell you that some of the decisions that have had to been made in this board, and this is my first term and I'm in my 5th year, I'll echo again, there has not been a single board meeting where we didn't have to have a discussion about what we would cut if this happens, or what would be our next move if this bill passes or that bill passes. And I will tell you that your elected officials aren't very interested in listening to what school board members say. They're not very interested in listening to what superintendents say. And our superintendent has been an absolute champion of public education, and he's been downtown many times. But we're way beyond that. And in our conversations with elected folks, we get a lot of the same answers. There's nothing we can do about it. I'm confident that we can come to an agreement, and I'm confident we can come to one that both sides can live with. But I do feel a very strong obligation that we have to have a fiscally solvent district, not in 1 and 2 years, not in 3 and 4 years. And I think one of the things that, if you look at the average tenure of a superintendent, and I think I speak for the board when I say that we support the job that Dr. Metcalf has done, we look at what's happened around the state, the average superintendent works about 2.5 years. And you can follow a pattern of behavior that goes with that. There's a district about an hour from here that is very well off and gets a lot more money than we do. And they signed some unmanageable contracts, knowing that in 2.5 years that superintendent would probably move on, like most of them do. And they went from a significant surplus to a significant deficit in 1 year. And so there is a reason that we want stability here. There is a reason we want stability here. And that can change like that. I fear some of the things that our legislators are contemplating. And I want the people out there to know that there are districts in this state that receive double the amount of money that we do. Double. Almost $14,000 a year, while we receive $7,100. So the last thing I'll say is that, the district, the community has spoken. I'll echo President Wasik's statements. I hear those things when I'm at the grocery store. I don't agree with them all the time. I think the bond proposals that were put forth were reasonable for the district and the community that we live in. I'll also say that, we have a problem with scale many times when we explain these things to the community, because, I've had people tell me, I put a roof on my house and it costs $4,500. I don't understand why it costs $600,000 to do a school. And I think until you've sat in this position, until you've had to look at some of those things, you start making those decisions, those tough cuts. And we have a lot of our general fund wrapped up in salary. Nobody wants to cut anybody's pay here, but we do have significant infrastructure issues. And the $1 million a year sinking fund that goes by pretty quick. And luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had an incident recently where we've had a major failure that had to be fixed immediately. And we all live on the precipice of that. We have an aging district and an aging infrastructure. And all those things eat into that general fund money that's available to our teachers. So I appreciate you coming. Again, as anybody here, I welcome comments. I welcome emails. You can get a hold of any of us on the website. Be happy to explain to you what our position is. Thank you.
I just want to say that I know everyone on this board is very committed to the school district. I'm a transplant from California here. I came here kicking and screaming. The one thing that I've been proud of is that we have a great school district, and I want to preserve it. And I know we will work together to make that happen. I'd like to thank everyone for coming in. Some of the individuals talked about the buildings that we have here. On the board, we don't have the luxury of ignoring our buildings. We don't have the luxury of ignoring the pool, that the pool needs to be, the dehumidifier needs to be replaced. We don't have the luxury of ignoring heating when the buildings need heating, or hot water in the buildings. So we always have to be balancing the needs of the school district along with the budgets that we have. And I can tell you that everyone here works very hard and diligently at trying to create balance. We want our teachers to feel valued. It is not our wish to make them feel undervalued or disvalued. So we will continue to work on that. We look forward to being able to reach a contract agreement, and we will work diligently to do that. So thank everyone for coming here, but we are committed to our school district. We truly are.
All right. Thank you. We're going to move to closed session. I do want to make a point for those of you who are remaining and you want to carry the message out. We heard a lot about class size tonight, and so that is going to be an item that's on our agenda for April. So we do take that seriously, and just a point of fact that we've looked at the numbers pretty carefully, and we will be discussing it. So I can let you know that our district class size district-wide has increased by approximately 1.1 students per class between the years of 2009 and 2016. I know it may feel different in some rooms, and because they're not actually evenly distributed every year, every building. But if you're concerned about that, as we are, that's the data. So you can carry that message out to the community and to the parents if you feel so inclined, or come back in April to listen for that discussion. So we had a motion, we had a second to go into closed session before I hastily accelerated that item. So now we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Mrs. Winstanley?
Yes.
Mrs. Movena?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
President Wasik?
Yes.
Mr. Boucher?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark Pearson? Mr. Schiffner?
Yes.
Oops.